Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tony. It's a real privilege to be here this morning to talk about LA County Flood Control District and some of the services we provide in the way of water conservation and providing water supply to LA County residents. So, as Tony mentioned, up here on my name tag, I have LA County Flood Control District. Just to give you a little bit of background about LA County, in 1985, the LA County Flood Control District, LA County Road Department, and LA County Engineer were combined into one agency, and that's known as LA County Public Works. With that, though, we still carry out all the same functions of the Flood Control District, and my entire career has mainly been spent on the Flood Control District aspects of that. And thus, the two logos you see out there at the bottom, one for Public Works and one for LA County Flood Control District. One of our missions with the Flood Control District is making the most out of surface storage and flood management and groundwater recharge. As Ken mentioned, there was a very significant storm, at least in our history, in 1914 that created massive flooding and damage throughout LA County. And following that, in 1915, it was actually June 12, 1915, the LA County Flood Control District was formed. And the reason for it being formed was to deal with these very significant flood hazards that were a potential in the basin at all times. As you see up there, it was created in 1915 as a flood control agency, but I would rather refer to it as a flood management or stormwater management agency because it's really much greater than flood control. One of our key missions is to also conserve water and provide water to the communities through groundwater recharge. With that, we have an extensive and probably one of the most extensive flood control systems in the United States. Part of the facilities that we own and operate for flood control are listed here, and water conservation. 26 groundwater recharge basins or spreading grounds, 14 dams that we own and operate. The Corps of Engineers has another 4 dams that they operate in the area for flood control purposes only, and we coordinate our operations with them very carefully. We have 16 rubber dams. Rubber dams are really diversion structures that are in the river systems that we use to divert water over into adjacent spreading grounds. We have 524 miles of channels that we operate and maintain, and another 2,800 miles of tributary storm drains that are picking up localized runoff, conveying it to the flood control facilities so it can be carried downstream and make sure that everyone's adequately protected. The picture that's shown on the monitor there is a picture of our Rio Hondo spreading grounds, and that's our largest groundwater spreading ground. It's comprised of about 3,700 acres. With that, it has a storage capacity of about 1,300 acre feet of water. When it's fully operational, we can recharge at a rate of about 400 CFS per second. So it has a great capability of getting the water down into the ground. In that picture you'll see on the lower part there, that's Rio Hondo drainage canal. And what happens is water's being carried down through the drainage system. There's a series of a gate in this area that's lowered. It blocks the flow coming down the channel, and it diverts it over into the spreading grounds, and we fill up the basins and continue filling them, and we use that for groundwater recharge. As I mentioned, we have 14 dams that we own and operate. This is one of the dams. It's Big Tujunga Dam, which is up in the Los Angeles River watershed. It's a dam that we recently retrofitted for seismic safety. It was completed in 2011. With that, we were able to capture and hold more water behind the reservoir. The State Department of Safety of Dams had a restriction on us because of seismic concerns at that reservoir, so we weren't able to hold a water conservation pool there. We were able to operate it as flood control only, but we went in a 3-year project, brought the strength of that dam up, and now we're able to capture and hold another 5,000 acre feet of surface storage at that facility. As you're seeing there, we have about 137,300 acre feet of storage in our spreading grounds and in the dams that we operate. Out of that 137,000, about 110,000 acre feet of that is at the reservoirs themselves. Just a quick lesson here. I think a lot of you already know this, but what is an acre foot? An acre foot is basically enough water to supply two families of four for an entire year. There are about 326,000 gallons of water in 1 acre foot. And as another visual, 1 acre foot would cover a football field 1 foot deep. So that gives you some visual perspectives on what's an acre foot. Groundwater use in LA County. 1/3 of the Los Angeles County water supply comes from groundwater. So therefore, recharging groundwater aquifers is extremely important. As I mentioned, we operate 26 spreading grounds covering about 2,400 acres of land with a storage capacity of 23,000 acre feet of storage. In addition to that, we operate another spreading grounds for the city of Los Angeles, which is another 207 acres. How this works is basically we store water at the reservoirs. We operate the reservoirs or the dams for flood control first. Once the flood threat has passed because of a storm event in the area, we quickly go to a water conservation mode, in meaning that we start closing down the gates and whatnot to build up a pool, a storage pool behind those reservoirs, and release that water at a rate to where we can take it into the spreading grounds down below. On average, we conserve about 280,000 acre feet of water per year. We've seen some dramatic increases in our capabilities of conserving water over the years through better operations, better maintenance, and also improvement to facilities. We conserve on average enough water to supply 2.2 million people per year. So it's a very significant amount of water that we're recharging. In the water years 2010, 2011, they were very productive water years for us. If you look at rainfall, they were just a little more than average rainfall. But with that, we conserved 1 million acre feet of water in those 2 years. You say, well, why can't we do that every year? It really depends on rainfall, not only the amount of rainfall, but how you receive the rainfall. If you get a large rainfall event, all your water comes at once, we have only limited storage capacity, so we're not able to capture it all. Those 2 water years, 2010, 2011, even though we were about 105 or 110% of average rainfall, it was spread out through the entire winter. So we were able to capture pretty much all that water and conserve it. What's the value of that water? Right now, it's at the value of 1 million acre feet of water is about $550 million. But as all of you know, in the water industry, that's going up very quickly and very dramatically. So how do we optimize stormwater capture and groundwater recharge? One of the things that we have been working very diligently on is storage capacity. We have storage capacity at our reservoirs. We have storage capacity at our spreading grounds. Most of our projects over the past few years, as far as spreading grounds projects, have been enlarging the basins. And that's basically deepening those basins so that we can store more water in them. Our capacity issues at the reservoirs are primarily driven by sediment management. As you may or may not know, following significant fire events, it really triggers a series of events, and that's primarily sediment runoff or sediment depositing in those reservoirs. So the challenges for us over the next few years, because of the recent fire in 2009, the station fire, is to manage the sediment in those reservoirs. We've seen a significant amount of sediment come into those reservoirs, and as they fill with sediment, as you can see, it also it affects your ability to capture the stormwater or hold more water in those reservoirs to be released later for groundwater recharge. One of the other things that we're working very diligently on is intake capacity at the spreading grounds. Right now, some of the restrictions at our spreading grounds is the intake capacity to divert water out of the channels into the spreading grounds. What does that mean? Well, during high flows, if the flow rate is too high, we're not able to put the structures down to block the flow in those river systems and divert it over into the spreading grounds. But we have several projects underway now where we're increasing our ability to handle more water at the diversion structures so that during higher peak flow rates or higher flow rates down the river systems, we're able to divert that over into the spreading grounds, capture it, and recharge the groundwater basins. Another important factor in groundwater recharge is the percolation rate in the basins. As I mentioned, with the Rio Hondo channel in Rio Hondo spreading grounds, we have a recharge rate of 400 CFS. That's very, very significant. Just to put that in perspective, 1 CFS would be a fully opened fire hydrant. So if you're thinking about 400 CFS sinking into the ground, that's very, very significant. As you start recharging, the recharge rate starts to drop off because of saturation down below and because of the amount of time it takes for the water to move down through the materials down below, and it will drop off. What do we do to improve percolation rates? One of the things we do, or there are many things we do, but one of the key components of what we do is we have to go into our spreading grounds and we have to maintain them. That's maintaining the vegetation that grows there, and that also means we have to remove some of the fine silty sandy material that comes in with the storm flows that tends to settle out on the surface and become a blocking layer. So we go in on an annual basis, go in and scrape off that fine material to restore the percolation rate. How do we prepare for storm season? At all of our reservoirs, we consider storm season to begin October 15th. So by October 15th of every year, all of our reservoirs are have been drawn down to what we call minimum pool. We leave a pool in the reservoirs because when you get sediment flows into the reservoirs, you don't want that material moving up to the face of the dam where you have your valves, because then it affects your ability to operate those valves. So we have what we call a minimum pool elevation, so we never draw them down below that unless we're doing an excavation project. So by October 15th, we've drawn all of our reservoirs down to minimum pool. All the water that was captured in the previous storm season have been sent down to the spreading grounds and recharged. What we're looking for and have been successful at is looking for opportunities to recharge more recycled water. That has become a bigger part of our operation as we've been able to make partnerships with some of the water agencies, get the recycled water, move it over into our spreading grounds, and recharge the aquifers. Another thing that we work closely with water agencies, water master water agencies with is taking imported water that they bring in through pipelines through either the Colorado Aqueduct or through the State Water Project. They bring that untreated water into our facilities, into our flood control facilities. They discharge into the riverine systems. They move downstream. And again, we operate our spreading grounds by putting up the diversion structures and kicking that over into the spreading grounds for groundwater recharge. One of the statistics I wanted to throw out here, which we've been very, very successful at, is our capabilities of recharging stormwater on the San Gabriel River. We have been very, very effective. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we have captured 99% of the water that's come down the San Gabriel River, meaning that we're able to capture it at the dams, release it at a rate to where we can recharge the facilities down below. So that's very, very significant. I know there a lot of times we get kind of the press where, what about all the water that's being wasted to the ocean? On the San Gabriel side, we're very, very efficient. There's other challenges on the LA River side, so. Let's see, I think that kind of wraps it up. Again, thank you, and it's really great to see all the young people here today. You know, the water industry is really the future, so thank you.